Okay, guys, what do we got? My glasses. We got our rolling arch, caddy. What would it be? Caddy, art caddy, supply caddy. Let's see, maybe more black paint. That's what we're missing. More black and white paint. Wait. I am missing. What did you guys do with my brush? I'm missing. Oh, that's right. Oh, shoot. That's right. Shoot. Oh, okay. It didn't have anything on it. Thank goodness. I was worried this was going to have something on it. Come on, guys. Hold the brush. Okay, hold on, guys. I gotta throw this in the oven real quick. Okay, guys, we got a little bit of time before food is ready, so let's get going. Okay, we were working on this truck here, I think. We were working on that one. It looks unfinished. Okay, where's the brush? Okay, guys. dang it. Earbuds. Low, dude. Okay, we need a recharger. Earbuds.
I experimented with net art in the early 2010s and became disillusioned sometime around 2016 when it became clear that the internet was not a liberatory place.
You guys will listen
Web
to it.
2.0 had wholly subsumed everything. There was a meme I saw recently that said the internet was a lot more fun when it was optional. So what are the millennial artists left to do? Do we turn back to traditional forms? Painting? Is that conservative? Is that reactionary? Is there anything else to do? And it's a little bit depressing to see Gen Z following in the millennial footsteps. That they too, despite everything, still see some utopian potential in the internet. There's a utopian potential in everything, though, I guess. And maybe it's art's job to make that potential palpable. But art is never going to be the means through which utopia is realized.
I'm not here for like the critique of capitalism, which I think is obviously in his work. Like it's not completely affirmative. The critique of it's like so big. But I'm here for the like something has been lost that can never be recovered, and I feel that with his good pieces. Some of them are terrible. But
when it comes to recycling, we wish all plastics and metal were created equal. But sadly, that's just not true. In fact, if just one of these items ends up at the recycling facility, well, it's like washing your whites with a new red sock.
Okay, what was that? Number 6? Why is it jumping from 6 to 10? Okay. Come on. Sorry, guys. YouTube is being poopy doopy doo. Probably because it's I switched from my iPhone to my iPad. The end of the world continues.
Welcome to episode 7 of Scorned by Muses. The end of the world continues. It's rare to see sculptural installations these days, especially in the small, scrappy galleries in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. But we went to 2 in the same day,
He's found my channel.
and both shows deal with some
That
similar
is
themes.
so amazing. Welcome, Jay-Z.
First up, we went to Parent
Thank you for
to see a show by
blessing my
artist Emily
channel with
Janowitz
your
titled
presence.
Wet Blanket.
Hope you're having a wonderful day. We're just doing some painting. Just enjoying this day. Get some painting done.
It's interesting because you don't really usually see work this big in a small little shitty downtown gallery like this. I don't like it. I mean, it's like a definitely minimalist Robert Morris kind of thing, but it's somewhat effective. I wish they weren't obelisks though, because obelisks are too easily draw the illusion to some kind of falling empire. The most obvious art historical touchstones here are the minimalists Robert Morris and Tony Smith. Barnett Newman's piece Broken Obelisk might be another obvious nod, but I think Morris's work L-Beams or his January 1965 solo show at Green Gallery are more appropriate references. The minimalists were trying to erase the fissure between form and content. They wanted to create something concrete and immediate, which relied on nothing but itself. Something different is happening here, though. This work takes on the look of minimalism, but uses it as a device in order to make a statement on Western hegemony's culpability in producing climate change. A move which undermines the original intention of the formal language developed by artists like Morris and Smith. That doesn't necessarily mean this work is bad, it's just doing something else. something with less transcendental implications.
We found this space on Craigslist.
Nice.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it works really well with this work. Yeah, it's perfect for this work.
It's like not a way cute, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not trying, even though they're both funny right now, like, I'm not trying that hard, and
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's successful in this space. The choice of simple plywood was clearly a pragmatic, cost-conscious one, but it did feel a bit like something you'd see at a low-budget fashion pop-up. Like the kind of thing you'd have to navigate around at Dover Street Market on your way to buy a $1,500 skirt from Comme des Garçons. Or it's like an installation. I guess you just don't see installation work very often anymore. I actually did have a question. The temperature readings over there that you have to crawl under to go see them. What's the
yeah, because it's like a sauna, and we over it, Emily's started, she wants us to record the temperature every time I'm here.
Okay.
So that is like part of it. I think so the premise of it is this like 2 recordings of the ocean on the west coast and east coast.
Oh, cool.
So there's just like this sense of like the fallen monument, but like the land and like, you know, the earth that we inhabit. And then I feel like this like warming temperature gauge has some of that like
Oh, yeah, interesting.
Like
Yeah.
this space. I feel like the work is pretty site responsive. It's like
Yeah.
this space is becoming part of the work.
Totally.
Kind of like,
Yeah. The fallen monument aspect of the work makes it just a more tasteful version of Keon Williams' Ruins of Empire 2, where the earth swallows the master's house from last year's Whitney Biennial. This work is much better, though. Also, inside the tips of these sculptures, there's an audio transducer, which is the part of the speaker which converts electrical signals into audio signals, so the sculptures vibrate with the sounds coming through the transducer. Wait, was someone speaking? Did that come through this? I wish it were a little less explicit. You know, I wish it were less like the fallen monument. I wish it could just be way more abstract and mysterious. It's a little, it's sad. You know, it's melancholic. But I actually like this. A few blocks away was another sculptural installation at Blade Study, featuring the work of Pap Soli Fall. One annoying trend that Blade Study and its neighboring galleries have adopted, which you'll see elsewhere in the neighborhood too, is that new hip restaurants and cafes will keep the signage of the businesses which previously occupied the space. These signs hang above the hipster hangouts like the ears of fallen combatants around a Vietnam GI's neck. Trophies of conquest, the corporeal remains of the battle of gentrification. Yet the signs also serve to mask the shame of the business owners and their clients, a schizophrenic split between glory and guilt. They express a desire to hang on to what has already been lost, the mystic allure of Chinatown that their very presence is nullifying. But anyway, let's talk about the show. Oh, in a nutshell. A few immediate similarities to Janowick's show are clear. Both works push up against the limitations of the physical space of the gallery and force the viewer to become aware of their own body in relation to the work, something which was also important to the minimalists. Can you go in? Oh, how do I get in? Oh. Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't even... Wow. It's like a Noah's Ark in here. Like the life raft at the end of the world. I mean, both of these shows actually are very, like... Anthropocene pessimistic, you know, this one and the other one, where it's like this dead guy covered in moss that didn't survive the apocalypse, you know. And his face is a mirror, a memento mori to remind us that we will suffer the same fate. It's a bit of a trite gesture, but I guess it works. But it's kind of nice. I mean, it is also, it's like a little sci-fi in a different way, you know.
Okay, that's kind of light for that side piece. Roll with it.
Are there 6 Dragon Balls? I thought there were 5 Dragon Balls. There are actually 7 Dragon Balls. But anyway, this is just an illustration of how this show is another example of how heavily anime aesthetics weigh on the millennial mind. I really hate when artists just do this, like, look, this is the theoretical underpinning of my work. There it is if you want to read it, like, it'll help you make sense of the thing, because the work itself isn't communicating it well enough. It's like, stop making us read, you know? Stop making us read. Can I touch the books? Yeah. Kind of feels like, what do you call those? A time capsule. Like the thing when you're like in 5th grade and you bury it in your backyard. Not a lot of art speak in this one. In a Nutshell invites a deeper aesthetic inquiry into this conundrum, struggling against the repression of dynamic cultural expression through rigid systems that prioritize fixed ideals over organic change. By extending and resonating with the visceral qualities of the Créspiage ritual, the works on display explore the creation of idiosyncratic forms, not as a passive act of compliance, but as a living, evolving process. I wonder if they're going to sell this. I think anybody's going to buy this giant peanut. Anyway, I haven't really seen something like this in a while. It's very academic.
It reminds me of essays.
Yeah, exactly. It's like very institutional. Very academic. Okay. Both Soli Fall and Janowick are engaged in a deep pessimism. The world is being destroyed, and all we can do is sit back and watch. Maybe our monuments will outlive us, they seem to say. They'll serve as a cryptic message in a bottle so that some future society can understand how it all went wrong. I think this attitude is best summarized by an Instagram post from the influential Substack writer Angelicism01, whose romantic apocalyptic pessimism captured the minds of many young people and artists during the pandemic lockdowns. The post reads, "By going to sit on a high hill above the city, we get to see exactly how it will be destroyed, and how beautiful it is. Every last fucking blow."
Search and play Snake in the Google app. Just type Snake Game to play daily challenges. Customize what your snake or fruit looks like, or just play the classic right in the Google app. Search, play, repeat. Download the Google app.
Oh wait, what was this one? 7? Dude, why are you going to 9 when we haven't even hit 8?
Welcome to episode 8 of Scorned by Muses, The Critic's Task.
Is this the right?
If you become a cultural critic, you are signing off largely as an art critic. But an art critic hands down value judgments. And he hands down value judgments because he looks at art. And when you look at art and really look at it, you can't prevent yourself from having a value judgment. And you owe it to your public, your readership, to your cultural value judgments. And everything else flows from that. Thank you.
Even though I talk a lot about art, I don't really consider myself an art critic. I'm more of a frustrated artist who's found that his frustration with art is more of a frustration with society and politics. We've seen a flood of material in the past few months tackling the issue of criticism and its relationship to the sorry state of contemporary art. Dean Kissack's piece in Harper's Magazine titled The Painted Protest inspired a flurry of responses where critics turned their faculties on one another in a debate over the role and efficacy of criticism in a time of aesthetic uncertainty. We'll hear more from Dean later in this episode. Last fall, Cesura Magazine hosted a panel titled The Crisis of Art Criticism.
This is more like a resurgence than it is a crisis. I think there's a crisis of art.
And at least 2 brand new publications that I'm aware of, Critics on Critics and Mutt Art Review, are set to launch in early 2025 with an attempt to reanimate art criticism from its long postmodern slumber. No doubt one of the figures who spurred this moment is Sean Tatel, whose Manhattan Art Review many saw as breathing fresh air into a discourse which had been suffocated by cryptic academic language and which had shirked the responsibility of actual criticism.
Here's something you can see.
Tatel's autodidactic dilettantism proved to be an asset insofar as he wasn't shackled by the chains of late 20th and early 21st century art discourse.
I mean, I guess I'm just pretty, loose with it.
However, that same asset proved to be a profound liability because the ideological stakes of his arguments are extremely muddled. This ideological confusion is also why Tatel misapprehends my own criticism of him, which began with episode 1 of this series. Sean has some serious shortcomings, and the main one is that he doesn't have a theory of history that's based. So, a few months ago, Tatel published this article called Cornering the Critics, in which I am one of those critics that is cornered. And in this article, he kind of calls out the history, or lack of history, that some of these critics are bringing to their criticism, which is a little bit ironic because I had called out Tatel's own lack of a theory of history. So in this article, he says that a broad knowledge of the past is a necessary basis for navigating the present. And I agree with that, that's true, but the question is, how do we understand that past? In order to understand our past, we do need a theory of history. history is not just a set of facts that lead up to the present. The theory of history is an explanation for why the past unfolded as it did. We could think of a physicist, for example, that for the physicist, history is the unfolding of the reactions to the original inciting incident of the universe, which would be the Big Bang. So the task for the physicist then would be to calculate those reactions in a way that's predictable.
Okay.
And that helps to
Wait.
uncover the driving force of the universe. A Catholic theologian, on the other hand, might see history as the unfolding of the glory of God and the revelation of divine mysteries.
Somebody
The task for the theologian
tearing
then would be
up
to
our
glorify
screen.
God and to uncover the true nature of the divine.
Is it raining? Raining?
For the thinkers of the Enlightenment,
Yeah,
whom
it
Taylor
looks like
sees
it's
as
raining.
outdated, history is the progress of the consciousness of freedom. And the whole idea of criticism is one which emerges with the Enlightenment. What is criticism? Criticism is to examine a phenomenon, and through that examination, to discover within that phenomenon the conditions for the possibility of change. How might one look at something as it is and imagine how it might be otherwise? I had texted Tatel because I wanted him to come on this episode, and when I explained this theory of history to him, he accused me of teleology. And I would say that's true. But I don't think that's a bad thing. Without a telos, without some idea of end goal towards which you're supposed to be progressing, it's very difficult to even organize one's life at an individual level, much less at the total social level of society. So if we don't know where we're going, and if we don't have some idea towards which we are striving, then what the hell are we doing?
Selling lemons. That's what you're doing. You're selling lemons. For no sugar.
On January 9th, 2025, Harper's Magazine hosted what was a hopelessly transparent ploy to boost subscriptions to the magazine. Dean Kissick, author of the Painted Protest article I mentioned earlier, sat down with the hosts of the Red Scare podcast for a discussion entitled Whither Contemporary Art. For those who haven't read Kissick's article, it's basically a complaint about how since 2016, woke politics has ruined contemporary art.
It's fair to say that Dean's essay about the state of contemporary art, featured on the cover of the December issue of Harper's, has for the past 2 months been white-hot talk of the art world.
I found the talk to be mostly pretty boring, honestly, suffused with a mournful and regretful tone. Kissick and the Red Scare girls both rose to popularity during the early Trump years, when thumbing one's nose at the liberal orthodoxy of woke-mongers was enough to garner a substantial following of disaffected Bernie-crats and alt-weirdos.
You say the right didn't start the culture war. I think that's kind of true. The recent, like the one of the past 10 years or so, I think that's kind of true in my, I think it's a very contemporary art, my lived experience, my lived experience suggested that it's really, this is a culture war coming from the left. But you do remember Trump's first election, which was very unexpected in 2016. This was something that Bannon would talk about all the time, and Andrew Breitbart, before he passed away, would talk about all the time, and it'd be like actively trying to cement, right? Andrew Breitbart would say politics is downstream of culture, which I don't think think is true, but he was saying it at the time, it really made sense to me, and they were really like, Batman would say all the time, it's cultural, it's how we win. And perhaps with hindsight, that it seems proved right. I mean, it seems he seems vindicated.
On the one hand, Kissick expressed a nostalgia for the peak years of the culture wars, but also a regret that it might all have been for naught.
I'm kind of on my way out of the art world, at least, for a while. I feel like I go to these shows, or I go to like a lot of institutions, or if I go to like gallery shows, and I feel like I don't like this. Like, this makes me, I don't enjoy going to see these shows for the most part. I often find it depressing. It used to make me feel jealous. I used to feel jealous of my friends. I think, wow, I wish I had so many friends are or were successful artists, and I'd be so jealous of what they were doing now. I just don't have that. Often I find it quite depressing, and I feel like this isn't for me, and it's not supposed to be for me. And that's totally fine. Like, art doesn't have to be for me. So if something's not for you, if you're not enjoying it, you should just walk away. And you can walk away, gracefully, respectfully, and quietly, or you can just issue a screed. If you're a kind of, as I am, you're kind of like a slightly embittered millennial, maybe spend so much of life alone. You think, maybe I made a big mistake.
One thing is clear. The culture wars seem to be drawing to a close. The response to the second Trump term has been muted. The hysterics of 2017 are much less apparent. Where will art go now that it no longer seems called to #resist? The critics have a harder job. It was pretty easy to dismiss the bad hysterics of the anti-Trump art of the past decade. Will we get a new and better art? What will that look like? I guess only time will tell. The art theorist Susan Buckmore said that the artist's job is to sustain the critical moment of aesthetic experience, and that the critic's job is to recognize it. My hope is that we can live up to that task.
You probably know Vistaprint for business cards, because we've printed them for millions of small businesses over the past 25 years. But we also print signs, stickers, shirts, and more. If you need it, we print it. Print it all with 20% off for new customers at Vistaprint.com.
Style and substance. In the GMC Sierra, or current eligible GMC owners get 0% APR with a total value of over $11,000 on this Sierra 1500 model.
Okay, guys, what time is it? What time is it, guys? I hope I set the alarm for the food. Let me check. Oh my God. Let me check. Hold up, guys, and then we'll start the next episode, which is number 9. Number 9. Fantasy art. I did listen to that one before, but we'll listen to it. Okay, we got about 15, 16 minutes left. So the alarm goes off. How are we looking, guys? Are you able to see? We need to boost it up a little bit. Or is the chat just gonna get in the way? Okay. What is our next step?
Welcome to episode 9 of Scorned by Muses.
Okay.
Fantasy art.
Okay.
I first started seeing fantasy art creep into galleries in New York sometime around the late 20-teens. Stuff that looked like it ought to belong on DeviantArt.com or in a Lord of the Rings fan art subreddit was suddenly being taken seriously in the capital A art world of Manhattan galleries.
Okay, guys.
The 2017
You know what?
Whitney
We
biennial
need to
featured this
get
painting by
more
Julie Gwen.
gray.
It was the first painting of this style that I remember seeing, but the fantastical images being framed within the facsimile of the front page of the New York Times lent the painting a sense of irony and criticality. It was not mere escapist fantasy. I read it as an allegory for the almost fantastical state of current events in the wake of Trump's first electoral victory in 2016. Soon after, though, I began to see the work of some of Gwen's former Rhode Island School of Design classmates being exhibited in New York. Shows including the artists Kai Christensen Knowles, Phoebe Nesgos, and Henry Belden all displayed a similarly fantastical style. We went to go see Christensen Knowles' show at Lomax here in Manhattan to have a better look. The portraits are pretty nice, actually. I kind of wish they were finished. You know, like he didn't do the eyes. Kind of has this feeling like I wonder why he didn't do the eyes.
You just do eyes. Just eyes. Genetic design. Just eyes.
Like they all have this blank stare. Feels like a Greek marble statue. But I think most of those Greek marble statues were painted at one point. Definitely makes them feel creepy with
That's a little too
the eyes not filled in. He filled in his own eyes, though. This one's a self-portrait. The other gives everyone like the puffy, filled lips, plastic surgery face. You know? Like, I wonder what the not finishing is about. You know, it's in some sense like a non-committal. Some are more finished than others. Either it was just too much work, or it's a lack of commitment.
Yeah, come on.
It does feel like it's not a full send, you know? Like I kind of want the full send. I want to see the full send.
Sorry, guys.
I think they could do
Again,
nice.
caught using the wrong
Unprovided
brush.
silver hair.
And it just fell off into my
But even this one,
thinner.
like the background, it's, you know, when you look closely at it, it's still like the fidelity of the rendering. Is not
Okay,
like
guys, let's
a brush. Yeah.
just ruin that. Ruin my.
Like she feels a little pasted on in this one. kind of stuck onto the background. You can like really see the way that it's treated like around the edges here. Like, you know, there's like a white outline. Right? It's like she's really just like
Guys,
stuck onto the background. Like, I would actually be really curious to see what he could do if he did like fully render these. This one is maybe closer to a fully rendered, but he also is like really like you know, like really outlining it. That you can see here. It's just like very outlined. Like everything's very like stylized. Yeah. I think we should go across the street to see the more sci-fi fantasy work. If you're a fan of this series, please subscribe to us on Patreon. The link is in the description. It really helps and it allows us to continue making content like this, so please do it. It helps a lot. Anyway, back to the episode. We ran into a young Yale University student on our way to the other gallery. She was curious about what we were doing, and she had some thoughts on the paintings. Well, or like, yeah, like this could be on a Magic the Gathering. Like it could be one of the images on a Magic the Gathering card or something. Well, it's funny you call it D&D, but like very deviant art. Do you know what deviant art is? Maybe people don't, yeah.
I was alive then, thanks.
This one's also like, I mean, it's like a less sci-fi, more like kind of like medieval battle. It's like the intervention and the saving. And it's almost like it's an abstracted history painting. You know, it could be a David or something. You have a big house to put that in. Oh, it's the Angel of History. Wow. So it's a Paul Klee reference. Yeah, or I mean, I think it's or Benjamin or whatever.
The whole show is kind of predicated on, at least this side is predicated on the Vorticist movement, so the English equivalent to Italian futurism. It's about destruction, about again, a new future. So the Angel of History kind of being equivalent of paradise and catching.
Yeah, the wreckage of modernity and its wings. Yeah.
Boccioni kind of figuration, futurist form with Renaissance painting, and then the figures churning like the vortex of time. This is actually based on Coriolanus, Shakespeare's tragedy. So it's like an impossibly distant past and impossibly distant future, kind of converging. It's easily interested, I think, in kind of like you said, like video game art, TV art stuff.
Yeah.
RPGs, and anime, and mecha stuff. You know, he kind of has like a pretty wide background, a lot of horror, kind of like Wes Craven, also. Yeah. So he's pulling from like and also like graphic novel, like so you see like a lot of like hard contrast, edgy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely feels. You know, we were just talking about this a minute ago, but just like this kind of reconsideration of this sort of fantasy art in a more serious art context. I mean, Lomax is certainly like at the vanguard of that effort.
Yeah, I think Alex has like a really like firm background in that kind of field of like gothic, you know. Yeah. And like H.R. Giger is obviously the big one.
Totally, yeah. What do you think about like this kind of stuff being brought, or like the Giger stuff and that kind of lineage being brought into a more serious, like gallery art?
I think it's important.
Context.
I think it's an inevitability, especially with like video inspired, especially video games now being kind of like adopted by the media and like all of these like kind of digital imagery and people becoming increasingly obsessed with like fantastical universes. It's like, why not look at like you know if you're gonna contextualize it within like an artistic canon, it's like you might as well go to like the per se like highbrow roots of it, which like would be going up the ladder to whoever the source materials are. So Giger would be one. And
yeah, but Giger I don't think is, at least until recently, wouldn't have been really considered like highbrow.
No,
you know, it's like people get tattoos of Giger. You know, people don't get tattoos of Frank Stella, or maybe they do. I don't know. Sure. But I'm sure someone has a Frank Stella tattoo.
Probably. Okay, this piece, like the demon seated, this one. But this stuff is like, I feel kind of like an origin point for a lot of this stuff.
Wow.
And this guy's been totally neglected.
Whoa, that's
This
crazy.
art is like really
Womack should do a show.
early on. I mean,
Yeah.
this is all
What? Wow.
yeah, he was amazing. And this is like the proto Magic the Gathering card.
Yeah. yeah.
Yeah, like he has this really, really funny one. He called Perfect here. It's like a dwarf on a horse that's like murdering. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, like he has like these are like 1800s maybe.
So there was this kind of like late 19th century mysticism.
Yeah, sure.
And he's
You can even go
Russian.
like yeah, you can even go back to like the like grotesqueries of like medieval like engravings and like demons and goblins and such.
Yeah, but I think that's a little bit like that's because this is kind of a like fantastical rejection of modernity,
Sure.
you know, versus this kind of or like an interest in the occult
Yeah.
versus just like medieval superstition.
Yeah. Like I think of like Longer Dawn and like the kind of like spider head.
Yeah, exactly. The cyclops and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. My friend Brandon, had this really eccentric friend that now has moved away from the States, but he just had like a really dusty book, and he was like, I found this in the store in the Netherlands, and I was like, okay, and I looked at it, and I was like, this is cool, and he's like, yeah, it's cool, and then that was that, and I got it more. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's the best way to find something too. It's like you find a dusty book and it's yeah. It's like a never-ending story kind of thing. Like you go in the attic and you like blow the dust off like this giant leather-bound book.
Exactly how you're supposed to discover fantasy.
Yeah, it starts bleeding. Yeah, you're like.
Okay, guys, I think I gotta rotate this around because oh shoot! I put my hand in the tacky paint again.
In early 2022, two different galleries simultaneously mounted solo shows featuring.
Oh, hey,
Swiss
Keegan
artists
Vibe, how are you doing? Sorry I didn't watch your stream
one
a
at
few
Womack's
hours ago.
in New
No
York
worries,
and
Keegan.
another at the Schinkel Pavilion in Berlin.
It is not
The
a problem.
reconsideration of Giger in a serious art world context felt strange. It was an obvious
That's
attempt
why I
to
came back
capitalize
for a
on
part
momentary
2.
art world popularity of
We're
fantasy.
doing a part 2.
The art of H.R. Giger was originally brought to the attention of the world through the movie director Alejandro Jodorowsky, when Jodorowsky recruited him to make some concept art for his film adaptation of Frank Herbert's sci-fi novel Dune. Jodorowsky's film was never realized, but Giger, along with several other artists from Jodorowsky's team, would go on to form a key part of the crew which produced the now iconic 1979 film Alien.
I think Giger has an extra quality, and so that's how I saw it. It was as simple as that. I've never been so certain about anything in my life.
Yet the kinds of paintings that Giger was making in the late 1960s when Jodorowsky discovered him were woefully out of step with the kinds of art that was being written about in serious publications like Art Forum or Art in America. Giger's art looked like this, whereas the serious painting of the era looked like this, and this, and this. Giger would have been considered kitsch by the standard of those artists and critics in the 1960s and 70s who were still willing to uphold the notion of the avant-garde. The exhaustion and collapse of the avant-garde since the late 1960s has forced a reconsideration of practices that would have been considered kitsch in a previous era. Contemporary artists like Nguyen and Christensen Knowles seem to draw their lineage more from kitsch popular media artists like Frank Frazetta, who painted covers for the Conan the Barbarian paperback novels, and Sid Mead, who created concept art for sci-fi films like Blade Runner. I initially found the work by artists like Nguyen and Christensen Knowles to be, at best, a self-conscious resignation in the face of the impossibility of making the kind of novel, aesthetic gestures which historically had characterized the avant-garde, and at worst, an opportunistic production of sexy images that could sell. But I've become more sympathetic to the work as I've come to identify with its undercurrent of sadness.
Am I still on the same painting? Yeah, I'm still working on the same painting.
And the impossibility
It's
of
gonna be a
artistic
while before I
progress
actually
in a
finish.
time of broad societal regress.
Like,
I admire these
I'm
artists'
thinking maybe a
unwillingness to
month.
capitulate completely and to abandon art in the face of the seeming impossibility of making it. I respect the
But
desire to
moving
continue on with some kind of
moving
aesthetic
closer
practice,
to
even if it may exist
a
outside the so-called pale of history.
finalization of this
Arthur
piece.
Danto famously declared the end of art history in his essay After the End of Art. But what he meant by that was not that the practice of art or the making of aesthetic objects had ended, but rather that a certain narrative had ended. A narrative which began with the Renaissance and ended at some point in the late 20th century. The late 20th century was a rigorous investigation of the boundaries of art. The conceptual artist Joseph Kosuth in 1969 claimed that the only role of the artist was to investigate the nature of art itself. Artists today do not seem to feel tasked by Kosuth's mandate. That's because when the artists of Kosuth's period pressed against boundary after boundary, they found that the boundaries all gave way. It meant that anything could be a work of art. It opened up a whole new field of aesthetic exploration. It also meant that if anything was potentially a work of art, then artists had to find some justification for how and why their practice could be
Okay,
considered
hold
art
on, guys.
against
I
any
gotta
other
go
kind
check
of
on
art.
this.
So artists
I'll be
turned
right
to
back.
philosophy.
Hey, James Smith, absolutely
Art
amazing
from the late
looking. Thank you,
1960s
James. I
onwards
appreciate
began
it.
to
Welcome
lean
to the
heavily
channel.
on philosophical texts to
Hope you guys
support
are having
work
a
which
great
wasn't
day
doing
or
that much
evening.
to the level of sensuous
I gotta check
aesthetic
on my
experience.
food in the oven.
Conceptual art came to dominate the second half of the 20th century and the early part of the 21st. Thought came to dominate feeling. My read on the current trend of fantastical figuration is that it is an attempt to reassert feeling against the trends of the last half-century or more. The thing which many of these artists have lost, however, is the sense of historical consciousness which the avant-garde
Okay,
artists
guys, I got
had.
about 5 minutes left.
This became clear in my conversation with the contemporary artist Stuart Bird, whose work belongs to this recent
Try and
fantasy
get
trend.
as much of this cleaned up.
This idea that these things aren't images, that they're just strokes, it's reminding me of basically like kind of classic conversations about painting, right? And abstraction and the picture plane, and which you seem to be wanting to play with different layers and like drawing attention to the surface. Is this an object? Is this a picture? Is this just a thing? Rather than it being like an illusionistic space or a virtual space, that it just exists. In the sense that like, you know, Barnett Newman or like someone like that would think about it, or Frank Stella, or so I'm curious how you think about your work in the context of that kind of tradition of painting, or like sort of situating it within art history.
Yeah, in painting, I'm not so sure. I definitely there's definitely a sort of post-internet thread. The thing that got me first interested in visual art was finding stuff like Dis Magazine and The Jogging, and mostly because I think they had like a mix series. So it's like we found this, and I was like, what is this? I was definitely inspired by Jogging specifically, just this idea of like the kind of like fast and loose symbol collage, and then like stamping it with an officiality in some sense, and like, but then also the kind of group element that it incorporated.
The post-internet era of the 2010s made a big impact on millennial artists. but it was disappointing to see that Bird's imagination wasn't able to reach back further than the very recent past. The conversations of the 20th century seem forgotten or irrelevant. But with the reassertion of painting, particularly in its fantasy guise, I wanted to get Bird's take on that phenomenon, of which I consider him to be a part. Just curious what you think about this general use and appropriation of that kind of like sci-fi and fantasy imagery. You know, it's like this downtown sceney, cool thing, whereas 10 years ago it was more of the Disc Magazine, net art, conceptual thing, which felt maybe a little bit more like intellectually rigorous or something like that. Not that this isn't, but this is like feels a little bit more
right. Okay, I understand.
like straightforward in a sense. You know?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a sentimentality in fantasy, you know. I think it kind of, there's, if you grew up kind of being like a nerdy art kid who drew, who drew like pencil drawings of Aragon or like young adult, sci fantasy, whatever, and was getting shoved in a locker, like the.
As we talked, Bird continued to steer the conversation back towards his anxieties about technology and the internet. And it struck me that science fiction and fantasy are really both attempts to deal with the domination of our lives by technology. Fantasy looks backwards to an idyllic pre-industrial past, and science fiction looks forward to paint a utopian vision in which technology has liberated us, or a dystopian one in which it has destroyed us.
Mostly in AI image making, like the ability to construct source material in that way, at that pace, I think is something we've never really seen before. What weight does an image even have anymore, and how to sort of contend with that problem? Because that was not really as big of a problem for most of history. It was, beautiful images were regarded highly because they were rare, and I think we forget how short that timeline is of that becoming untrue, and so there's a lot of work to be done.
Producing an aesthetic experience has.
What am I watching? It's called. The channel is called the Yearbook Committee, and the show is called Scorned by Muses. It's about art. There's quite a few episodes of it.
Forms that aren't necessarily images.
It's
that are
about
in a lot
art
of ways
criticism.
like more powerful than a lot of the art I see. Is it still like
art criticism or art? Like, it's hard to tell.
Which produces that, and that seems to be a little bit what you're trying to reckon with.
Yeah. Well, and the curator and the critic become so much more important.
Okay, alright guys, I think I got the side panels done for the double-decker bus. Actually, no, I don't.
Time to kind of like
God dang it.
sort
Gosh dang it,
rifle
sorry.
through it. Like Wall-E, sort of like making the cubes. We have to sort of be figuring out where to put it all,
It is art discourse, I guess. I don't know if it's really criticism. It is criticism, but mostly talking about art. Art in the now. Well, this is pretty old. It's about 5 months old, so. Alright, Keegan, have a good night. Thank you for stopping through and saying hello. Appreciate it. Alright, I think I got it now.
Ordinary antiperspirants
Alright,
can't
guys.
fight sweat better
We're
than
gonna end it right there.
so don't crush it without sweating.
Come on, you.
They call it a small.
Okay. It's time for dinner. Get some dinner on. Get our dinner on. But I'd like to thank y'all for joining. Not sure if I'll be back on. Maybe I could do a late night. Just try to keep pushing through. Yeah, trying to complete the double-decker bus, and then like the tops of some of these here. But yep, we're gonna just end it right here. A lot of glare going on. Still upside down. But yeah, double-decker bus still has some work. Around the windows. Whatever the stripes are, I gotta fill in those stripes. Clean up this kind of rounded edge here. Outline some stuff. This needs cleaning up still in the corner. But yeah, majority that's left is the double-decker bus, and then I'll be going back around and adding the side mirrors to all the vehicles. And then I think that'll be it for the vehicles, other than adding maybe some hints of exhaust from the cars. And then we'll get, or actually no, we'll do the road first is what I've been saying, and then the exhaust after that, because the road's got to get lightened up, and I got to put in the road lines. So I was thinking of all yellow, dashed yellow lines, which I think on interstates are usually dashed white lines. I could play with that. If you drive, you should know what those mean. So, yep, that's it. Painting's upside down still. And yeah, there'll probably be a lot of touch-ups with the mirrors and stuff like that. But yeah, we're making our way through. Hey, James Smith, did I miss you? I probably missed it because you're in between Keegan. But oh no, I think I did say something. All right. Anyways, thanks for the likes, guys. I appreciate it. Also, for the people that have been subbing, thank you again. We're slowly getting up there. And I hope you all have a good day or evening wherever you're at. And until next time, or maybe later tonight, bye for now.